BIMS TV and the fourth video in the BIMS Blue Gap Collaborative Series. My name is Rose Santana, and today let's talk about the sources of nitrogen compounds as air pollutants. Some nitrogen oxides and ammonia are among the most common nitrogen compounds released to the atmosphere by human activities. They come from agricultural activities and also from the burning of fossil fuels. These pollutants return to the land, rivers, lakes, and to the ocean when it rains or as dry deposition, as particles, or simply through gas exchange with the Earth's surface. Excess ammonia comes from the breakdown and volatilization of urea in the manure of farm animals and also from fertilizers. Where ammonia pollution happens and where it is deposited varies. Some emission hotspots are associated with high density and intensive farming. Ammonia can also be transformed into nitrous oxide, N2O, by chemical interactions with oxygen. The burning of fossil fuels like gasoline and diesel in cars, trucks, power plants, industrial operations, ships, and airplane also creates nitrogen dioxide that goes directly into the atmosphere, contributing to smog and acid rain formation. Don't know about you guys, but I'm not exactly dying to go dancing in acid rain. All of these compounds are harmful to the life and the environment we live in, so it should be monitored and managed carefully. The burning of fossil fuels and mobile sources is the largest contributor of nitrogen pollutants in big cities. For example, a study conducted in the area of Tampa Bay, Florida in 2002 found that power plants and mobile sources contributed some 75% of the nitrogen emissions to the atmosphere. In 2002, nitrogen pollution in the air made up 57% of nitrogen entering Tampa Bay. This is over 1,900 tons of nitrogen from the atmospheric sources alone. Then continuous emissions from power plants and other stationary sources can also travel long distances through the air with deposition occurring outside of the source area. So the areas that end up being affected aren't even the areas that could potentially be putting out this pollution. So now let's talk about how do CAFOs contribute to air pollution and human health. So CAFOs, or concentrated animal feeding operations, are also known as factory farms, are defined by the United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, as livestock feeding operations confining over 1,000 animal units. So one animal unit is around 1,000 pounds of live animal weight for over 45 days a year. These operations typically involve beef cattle, dairy cows, swine, or poultry. Remarkably, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, highlights that CAFOs contribute to more than 7% of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. While the focus on greenhouse gases often revolves around carbon dioxide, it is important to recognize that a significant volume of nitrous oxide is released from CAFOs. This is generated as manure breakdown over time. Nitrogen pollution of the air has implications for our health as well as the well-being of other animals and plants that are vital to our livelihood. Prolonged exposure to elevated levels of nitrous oxide poses a significant risk to animal nervous systems. Communities near CAFOs can also have symptoms of numbness, dizziness, unconsciousness, and respiratory difficulties. Furthermore, the detrimental effects of inhaling toxic gases emitted from vehicles and industrial activities directly into the air we breathe are pronounced in urban and other densely populated areas. This pollution jeopardizes reproductive health and is associated with the development of conditions such as congenital disabilities, cancer, respiratory disorders, and a range of adverse environmental impacts. Now, you know we're not all about the gloom and doom on this channel, so let's talk a little bit about national regulations. The Clean Air Act is the law that defines the EPA's responsibilities for protecting and improving the nation's air quality and the stratospheric ozone layer. The last major change in the law, the Clean Air Act Amendments of 1990, was enacted by Congress in 1990. Over the years, there have been many changes in how we manage emissions that have improved air quality in many cities and communities. Through science and technology, we have made vehicles cleaner than they were in the 1970s. According to the EPA, air quality is usually good even though we now have more vehicles. Power plant and factory emissions are also regulated to improve the air quality of surrounding communities. The Clean Air Act also regulates the emission from CAFOs into the atmosphere. All this monitoring is how we help ourselves monitor and collect data around our air quality and take action for our own protection and benefit. So now let's talk about some solutions and or actions that you can take if you see something that shouldn't be happening. So, Rose, how do I report violations? So glad you asked. State and federal agencies have mechanisms to report problems with the air quality and the violation emission standards. For example, the EPA website provides contact information and forms designed to report violations. If there is a threat of immediate environmental or human damage, you should call 911. This can also be reported to the EPA's National Response Center. We can all take preventative measures to lower air pollutants. If you feel that you're being impacted, then investigate emission standards in your area. It is your right to breathe good air. And remember, if you see something, say something. So now let's talk about solutions or initiatives for reducing CAFOs pollution. Specifically to reduce the air pollution impact of CAFOs, these operations can repurpose manure for crop fertilization. According to the Department of Agriculture, only about 8% of all U.S. cropland is fertilized with livestock manure. So there is a substantial opportunity for increased use of manure to meet crop nutrient needs. However, there are several challenges to expanding the use of manure as a crop fertilizer. Because manure has a low nutrient to mass ratio, manure can be costly to apply, and the ratio of manure nutrients may not match the needs of crops. Technology, together with regulation and policy, can enhance manure value. For this, several federal programs, including the EPA and state environmental agencies, are working together to support and facilitate the use of manure as a fertilizer. And that's all for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we really hope that you learned something about air pollution. Please let us know down in the comments. As always, remember to like and subscribe to this channel so you're always up to date on environmental issues and all things black race. As always, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and our partners for helping us spread environmental awareness throughout all of our communities. Until next time.